I suppose, Gilly, a couple of years ago, you won the first final. You went through. You're in the same spot. You bombed out, lost two games after that, bombing out of the finals early. I suppose the message is for the boys to, the job's nowhere near done yet, is it?
No, absolutely. We won one game, played really well last week, but that doesn't really count for much going forward to this week if we can't produce the same.
How important was it last week? I suppose not just the win, but the way you did play. Like, it's probably one of the better games I've seen you play last couple of years.
Yeah, look, it was pleasing, and we knew that we definitely had some good football, in our side that we could produce, and it was just a matter of being able to do it. And to the boys' credit, they did and played well and got the result we were after.
Must be pleasing that Redan got off. Is Lloyd available this week?
Well, he actually wasn't reported, so he didn't really get off anything.
Oh, right.
So look, it's Redan plays with that type of intensity every week, and we'll definitely be asking him to do the same thing this week.
How you shaping up? List-wise, I don't think you had any injuries from the weekend just gone, did you?
No, we didn't have any injuries. Nathan Blomley pulled out Friday morning with a calf injury that he sustained during training on Thursday. So he's pretty good. He'll be available for selection this week. Both Hayden Riley and Matt Colbert have trained now the last 3 sessions. Both have been out for a period of time, so whether they come back into the side straight away or they play in our reserves, that's something we'll work through tomorrow night. Both those two guys are very good players, arguably very important to our back line, but we haven't had them for quite some time. So we just have to work through what's best for those two guys. But other than that, mate, we didn't get any injuries on Saturday, which is a bonus.
Must make it pretty hard, like a good spot to be in for yourself as coach, but if you didn't have any injuries, you played so well and you got these other guys that can come back in. A few selection headaches, I suppose.
No, I guess it's a good problem to have. Our reserve side are playing good footy and are strong again this year. So no matter whether it's those guys that haven't been playing or guys that did play on Saturday in the reserves, for example, Jacob Short and Ben Schultz that went out of the senior side from the week before, they both were in the best players in the reserve. So yes, there's plenty of guys to pick from. It's a good problem to have and something we just got to work through to. Whether it comes down to matchups, Darley are a little bit different to North City in terms of their height and how they play in their forward half. So whether we, look to bring in another tall for a small, that's an option and something we'll work through tomorrow night.
Yeah. How much do you read into the match a couple of weeks ago where it was the same two teams going at it? Obviously not as much on the line. Does that mean much in your eyes? Or?
Well, every time you go out to play, you always want to win and play the best you can. And on that day we didn't, and to Darley's credit, they played really well and beat us. Look, if we know that if we don't produce our best football, and the opposition does, and I guess now, out of any of the sides still in the competition, if you're down a little bit on the day and the opposition are playing the best footy, you're going to get beat. So I think that's a really important thing for us to remember, that 2 weeks ago we didn't play at our best, and Darley, played a lot better than we did, and they won. So we're pretty sure that if we can bring our best footy, we can win. But if we can't, we know that we'll definitely, get beaten by a better side.
Grant was fantastic for you. Tell us about, I suppose, his role, and would you use him the same way this week?
Yeah, look, Belly's been. He had a very good start to the year, and then missed a couple of games. went on a mid-season trip, and it took him a little bit to get going after he come back. But the last 2 to 3 weeks, he's been back in some good form as a forward that can go into the midfield and play high up the ground. He's a very talented footballer. Most people in the region would have seen him play at interleague level and VFL level, and we're very happy to have him, and hopefully he can produce the same footy again. And look, he will play pretty much the same sort of role as what he did last week.
I think you mentioned last week that you felt that perhaps your ruck division wasn't quite on par with some others in the final series, but you clearly managed that very well over the weekend. And once again, how will that become a challenge for you this weekend? Yeah,
obviously Darley this year, Martin Gray is a very big-bodied ruckman, and is probably a little bit different to the North City ruckman. I think he probably a bit more experienced, bigger body, but we'll still go in with our rucks the same way. Matt Cullen, and then he'll get a helping hand from Lee Ryle or Dan Colbert throughout the day. But we're pretty happy that Matt obviously had a week off the week before with an ankle injury, that he come through the game, got through okay. Contributed to the side's win, but he's pulled up well again, and he'll be fine to play this week.
Are you likely to commit many blokes to run with roles, or do you see the success against North City as giving you the confidence to know just go and play your own game and pretty much look after what you can control?
Well, Darley have, I would say, arguably, as good a five. Their best 5 players are as good as 5 players that are in the competition, and they need to be watched very carefully. And Steve Kennedy, Nathan Lyons, Jake Edwards, they've got lots of good players, and some of our players will get matchups. But in terms of just the old-fashioned tag, stand by his side all day, don't worry about anything else, just stop him every time he goes near the footy. It won't be to that extent, but there will be players that certainly get matchups.
Thanks, Gilly. All right. Yeah, that's fine. Clearly a great result, and you've really positioned yourself very, very well, haven't you, with that success over the weekend?
Certainly, third place is a lovely place to finish on the ladder if you can't get any higher than that. But our form over the last 2 weeks has been good, and we were able to take that in against Sunbury on Saturday, and now it gives us the opportunity to have another crack at Redan this week.
In terms of player availability, how are you looking?
Well, last week we actually lost 2 players midweek through general soreness, and that was Nida and also Tate Stone, and they both trained last night, so they'll both be in the mix for selection for this week. And also Ryan Closter, one of our recruits from Ballarat, that's only played some 4 or 5 games, has been on the track for the last 2 weeks, and so we'll just see how he pulls up tomorrow night. But it basically gives us a little bit of some extra players that come under consideration at selection tomorrow night.
And your performances previously against Redan give you a fair bit of confidence going in?
Yeah, well, when we came up here the first time around, I think probably when we went in at half time, there wasn't too much separating the 2 sides, but Redan certainly got away from us in the 3rd quarter, and quickly kicked, I think, 4 or 5 goals, and that was probably the margin at the end of the day. But again, that was up here, and we got them at home 2 weeks ago, and we seem to be a better side at home, and that's something that we're certainly very, very conscious of, and certainly addressing, so that we can certainly be in the mix this week.
And clearly, just to be playing such good football at this stage of the year must be something that has really given the club a great lift.
Yeah, well, it's really only come about in the last 2 weeks, because if you look back prior to that, our visits up here against East and also Lakers before that weren't actually very good performances, but we've certainly addressed that as best we can. But we've certainly been very pleased with our form in the last 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose just on that, your form playing in Ballarat as such probably hasn't been anywhere near as it is when you're playing at home, or even just down the eastern end at all this year. Is that something you've addressed during the week, or that's been brought up or mentioned?
I think it's been, certainly, without sort of going overboard, have certainly highlighted that this week because of our 5 visits to Ballarat so far this year. The 2 wins that we do have with 2 sides that are not in finals calculation, and the other 3 sides that we did play certainly had the better of us at the end of the day.
I think it's your 3rd year in a row in finals now, but you are placed the best out of those 3 years in terms of where you finished 3rd, and your list is probably the best where it is. Is that how you view it as well? If this is the best position you've been in, and you've probably got that experience from the previous couple of years as well?
Yeah, I think the finish for Darley for the last 2 years, I think, has been 4th. And last year there was 1 finals win early, and then sort of got comprehensively beaten in the 2nd week. But we've been working on that. I've only been at the club basically this year, but the club's been conscious of the fact that these sorts of things come about. They were actually years in the making, and the club's gone about endeavouring to make our list better, which we certainly have done this year, and probably as a result we're where we are.
Yeah, I saw Dane Grenfell on Sunday was down at Eastern Oval having a look at the other game. He looked to be moving a bit gingerly. Is he a chance to play, or is he going to get up for this game? Or?
Dane was fine last night. Dane's a very interesting character, as you probably all know, and he's been amongst the been certainly on the scoreboard over the last 5 weeks. He's been our main contributor up forward, and we found that he's been in very good form, and we just certainly hope that that continues in the coming weeks.
Because he has been, I suppose, the last sort of 4, 5, 6 weeks, he's really found a lot of goals. He's been in sort of the main side. How important is he to the side?
Oh, look, he's very important. Look, we've had a very good mix of goal kickers all year, and I think Dane's, I think he's just hit the 50 mark or 51. But we've got Reece Ellis has also been on the scoreboard this year, and Jake Edwards, well, he's played in a number of different positions, has also been a goal kicker, and also young Harley Inglis has also been on the scoreboard. But certainly at this particular stage, while we've got a number of options down forward, Dane's really taken it to the fore in recent weeks, and has been playing very, very well.
Yeah. And do you expect to have Shane O'Brien available this week?
Look, the Shane's availability will be confirmed or deconfirmed later today. Look, we have our fingers crossed, but because of his commitments down at Geelong, if it's not this week, he certainly becomes available. From next week, take us, on the rest of the journey that will still unfold.
Yeah. Very good. No worries.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much.